Hi, I'm Cheryl Kagan, very proud to be the senator for Gaithersburg and Rockville, and delighted to be hosting my weekly Kibbitzing with Kagan. Today's guest is Josh Kurtz. Josh is one of the best political commentators, observers, columnists, editors, reporters in the state of Maryland, in my opinion. He started off in New Mexico. He came to Maryland. He worked for the Gazette, then the Montgomery Gazette, where his incisiveness and insightfulness just impressed us all. He went to the Hill and worked for Roll Call, and then worked for E&E for 7 years on energy and the environment. And then in 2017, with many wonderful partners and supporters, he launched Maryland Matters. Maryland Matters is the go-to place for everything that's going on in Annapolis and around the state. So Josh Kurtz, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for inviting me on, Senator, and that's an overgenerous introduction, but thank you.
Absolutely. So as you just indicated before I started this conversation, this is turning the tables, because normally you get to ask the questions, and so
Yeah.
it's fun for me to turn.
A little weird.
Exactly. I like it, actually. So let me just start with, what do you like best about being a member of the working press, especially in these challenging times?
Wow. Well, I've always been nosy. I've always been interested in kind of following stuff, and I've always loved writing. And so, and I've always been into politics. So this has been sort of the best way to fuse those interests. And that hasn't changed for many, many years. Challenging times, though, you're not kidding, because it's just, you're in a profession where you go out and you meet people and you chat and you're sort of picking up intel, and that's what we do too. And it's just much more challenging to do that electronically. I mean, you can talk to people, you can Zoom with people, you can watch online hearings, but the serendipity of kind of running into people and just picking up intel along the way is gone, and that's tough.
Yeah, sure it is. So has the whole fake news moniker trickled down to Maryland, or has that mostly been a Trump thing with national news outlets?
I think it's trickled down a little bit. We've gotten that thrown at us a few times by conservative politicians or people in politics. Certainly people seem a lot more willing to call out perceived bias. Maybe that's fair game, maybe not. But yeah, we've gotten that thrown at us a few times, not nearly as much as on the national level, but it's something we're aware of.
Right, right. Do you push back? Do you take it? What's your reaction?
It depends on the circumstance. I often just prefer not to engage. If people accuse us of bias, I will ask them what we could be doing better. I will ask them to, provide us with intel, because sometimes it's just a matter of, talking to somebody, and even if there is a bias, it's better to cast a wide net and talk to as many people as you can. And we're certainly receptive to criticism. I love feedback of all kinds, and if I can build better bridges to people I might not ordinarily talk to, it's a great goal.
Feedback even when it's about a typo in one of your pieces?
Yeah, you provide those, which I appreciate too,
Or even when they're at midnight or 2 in the morning or something.
Doesn't matter when, yeah.
So how do you decide what you want to cover? Because there's such a wide range of articles and of reporters writing.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's always evolving, and it's always a work in progress. We feel like our main mission is to cover the state house and state government and politics, but there's obviously a ton to cover at the local level and occasionally at the federal level too. So every day we're kind of allocating our resources and figuring out where the story is and where we ought to be. We want to provide breaking news, but sometimes we don't feel like we have to be on top of everything, particularly if we can provide something deeper or analysis or something that explains what's going on more than just, hey, this happened 3 hours ago. But
Right.
every day it's kind of a balance.
Now, sometimes people pitch stories to you or
Yes.
pitch columns. How do you decide what makes an effective pitch? What makes you want to say yes?
Oh, wow.
This is a
Well,
tip for my legislative colleagues, if any are watching.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I have to say, I love hearing from legislators because they know what's going on. And even if they're pitching something that you might consider self-serving in a way, it still has value. But I mean, there's no magic formula to a successful pitch. I mean, I get bombarded with emails and texts and phone calls and um, you know, you have a sort of gut sense of how to separate the wheat from the chaff, but it's very hard to put into words. And I
Mhm.
think each journalist would answer you differently, probably.
Is your lens or your filter going to be different as we approach an election year? A state election year when everybody's name's on the ballot and we're going to get a new.
Yeah. Well, certainly we're going to be focused on electoral politics more than we might, but obviously, policy comes into everything we do. I actually, I, I feel like we write about policy more than I thought we would actually, which I think is a good thing,
Mhm.
which is a pleasant surprise to me because I thought maybe we would just be sort of like a political tip sheet. But,
Mhm.
there's so much going on. And I think particularly since the pandemic, there's just so much you can't ignore. And so that's kind of kept us on a serious kind of policy driven path to a degree.
Yeah. So you have recruited a very impressive cadre of colleagues and reporters
Thank you.
from Danielle Gaines, Bruce DuPoy, Bill Zorzi, Lou Peck.
Yeah.
Really, yeah, just, I mean, really an impressive bunch of folks. What would make them leave their other positions and come and work for, no offense, but it matters, a sort of new venture,
Right.
not
Well,
exactly the Baltimore Sun, Washington Post,
right, right. Well, I mean, in some cases they were unemployed. It was as simple as that.
That helps. Yes.
And we just lucked out with the timing of that. Um,
Yes.
but I think in other cases, I mean, both with Danielle and then some of the younger people we've brought on too, because we're so young and so small, we're not set in our ways. There is a lot of opportunity to kind of put your own imprint on what we do. Um, you know, Sometimes I say this both in a good way and a bad way. We have very few boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
And when I think of every other place I've worked, there have been certain guardrails, and now there aren't any, and that's very scary in a lot of ways. But it also means a lot of flexibility and opportunity for folks to just spread their wings, and I think that's very cool for a lot of people.
So if a reporter comes to you with some kind of off the wall idea, are you
Yeah.
kind of help them mold it? Or are you gonna automatically say yes? Or are you gonna, how does that go?
Well, I won't automatically say yes, but I do encourage it, and I do like to help them mold it. And frankly, I wish we did we thought outside of the box more than we do, but that's certainly a goal.
Right. Great.
Yeah.
Great. So something that you really haven't had to do before is raise money. So
Yes.
talk about what that's like for you. I hope you feel a little more empathy for candidates and elected officials and
Oh, yes.
fun that is for most of us.
Without a doubt, without a doubt. And I'll tell a very fast story. When I was in
Sure.
college, I was in college, I had a job for a week as a canvasser for a lefty group called the Citizen Labor Energy Coalition, going door to
Click.
door.
Mhm.
And CLEC, yeah. And I was so bad at it and I hated it so much that I quit after a week and then spent the rest of the summer working at Taco Bell. So, which was, I'm not going to say it was more rewarding, but, so the idea that all these years later, I have to raise a lot of money is very daunting. The
Wow.
nice thing is, and in a pandemic when people's very basic needs need to be met, I understand that there's a lot of competition for money. But
Sure.
on the other hand, I think even before we started publishing, some of the people associated with the project had a certain level of credibility. So people were willing to take a chance on us and give us some startup money. And, we've just built the credibility as we've gone along. And so, we have some foundation support, and a lot of our support just comes from individual donations, but it's tough as hell to ask, and I'm still not great at it. And I have colleagues who help me with it, but it's it's a daunting thing. And we run a very lean operation, and we live kind of hand to mouth.
Is there any money you would not accept?
I'm sure there is. Certainly anything racist, anything, like I wouldn't accept anything from the tobacco industry. I don't think, sort of, acknowledged killers. But, I don't know. Luckily, I haven't had to really face that yet.
I'll tell you a very quick story. When I was director of development of the National Women's Political Caucus, which was about electing women to office at all levels of government, Democrats and Republicans, we got a check for $100,000, which was a big check, especially at the time, a long time ago, from R.J. Reynolds. And we talked about it, and should we take it? And the then director, the then CEO said, you know what, this isn't tobacco money. We decided it was cookie money, because it were cookies from R.J. Reynolds.
Oh, right, yeah.
RJR Nabisco. And so I'm thinking of it as tobacco money. We thought of it as cookie money, and we wrote them a very nice thank you letter.
Yeah.
But those decisions can be tough. So interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if RJR Reynolds is listening, I might be, let's talk. Right?
That's right. You've done trivia nights. Tell me about those, how those launched. Who is the trivia master in coming up with some of the really obscure and good questions?
Well, we've done it twice, and we were going to do it a third time. Our third one got knocked out by the pandemic, but we'll do it. We'll probably do it virtually this spring. And most of the questions come from my colleague Angela Breck, who used to be the editor of the Maryland Independent down in Charles County, and it's a Maryland trivia, Maryland political cultural trivia. And and she's come up with probably 85% of our questions, and she's just a kind of a junkie, and it's great fun.
I have to tell you, I used to think of myself, a long time ago, I was the new kid in politics, and now they ask these questions, and it's back in this campaign in 1986 or this campaign in 1990. It was like, I have that history. It's that long ago to me. So
right.
Talk about Maryland Shatters, one of your new initiatives.
Yeah, right. A competitor.
Hardly that, but yes.
No, we launched a podcast fairly recently, and we're just, as we speak, we're just working on our third episode, so we're not very deep into it, and we're working some of the kinks out, just the technological kinks out. But it's been a lot of fun so far. Our first main guest was Michael Steele, and second one was Brandon Scott, right after he got elected mayor of Baltimore. And we've got a third one in the works, but we're trying to make it we're trying to have sort of for lack of a better term, a serious kind of newsy segment, and something kind of a little more fun and offbeat, and then just a kind of discussion of the week's events. And we'll see. We'll tweak the formula as we go along. Right now, we're doing it roughly every 2 weeks or so. We may try to do it every week during the session, but that may prove to be too ambitious. But we'll see.
Well, I've listened to them both. I thought they were good. I thought it was interesting. The whole lucky or unlucky bill numbers was pretty random.
Oh yeah, that was one of the fun things we did. We looked at bill numbers that were like House Bill 13 or whatever, 666 or what have you. Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah. Has there been in your whole career, and not just Maryland Matters, has there ever been a story that you've regretted doing? Something that was sort of awkward or over your personal boundaries?
No, not per se. There were probably a few times where I regretted not reaching out to someone, before it got published. Something like that. I don't know. I would have to rack my brain for, I mean, I'm sure the answer is yes, but I'd have to rack my brain for, but there's nothing that's like haunting me and keeping me up at night, but there's definitely any number of stories I would have done differently in hindsight. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. What was the hardest story you've ever worked on? Most challenging, however you define it.
Wow. Probably as a reporter, this dates back to my time in New Mexico. I spent 6 weeks working on nothing but this story, which was a real gift, but it was an investigation of an oil company out in New Mexico and how they were pumping gas and oil and natural gas, but underreporting the amount that they were taking out. So that was affecting the taxes and royalties they paid to the federal and state governments. So I had to kind of immerse myself in that world, which was a challenge, and then sort of collect the evidence and then, present it to regulators and to the company for, sort of here's what I found. Can you comment?
Wow. Well, that prepared you for your job on the Hill with energy and the environment.
Well, yeah, absolutely it did. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, before we go to our Fast Five question,
right.
Why don't you just briefly talk about social media, how people can engage with Maryland Matters or Maryland Shatters, give the website and social media links.
Right. Well, we're marylandmatters.org. That's where you'll find us. We're a nonprofit, as we discussed. Our Twitter account is just Maryland, at Maryland Matters, Facebook, Maryland Matters, Instagram, Maryland Matters. Simple enough. And that's, that's mostly what we're doing. Like everything, because we're so new and young, our social media strategy is sort of evolving, and I like to have the younger people do more of it because they seem to understand it.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, I want to encourage anyone who's watching this, first off, if you are not a regular reader or viewer now, listener to Maryland Shatters or Maryland Matters, please subscribe, please sign up, and consider making a donation of any amount. I do my teeny tiny little part, and if everyone does a little bit, we can make sure that independent journalism can survive in Maryland and other entities like this around the country. So I do want to encourage that.
Thank you.
Josh Kurtz, the Fast Five.
Oof, I'm scared now.
I know, right? So first, what would you say is your biggest accomplishment of your career?
Of my career, I would say, I would say it's probably, I have a sort of reporter answer, which is the oil story I mentioned. And I think just creating Maryland Matters out of nothing is the other answer.
That's kind of what I was expecting you to say.
Yeah.
What is your favorite sport to play or watch?
To play, even though I've been retired for 2 years, is ultimate frisbee. And though I also enjoy biking a lot now, and to watch, I watch less and less of it as I get older, but I would say probably baseball or basketball.
Great. What has been your best quarantine purchase?
Boy, yeah, I don't know. It's probably been, getting on Hulu or something, Hulu and Netflix, right?
Any tips? Any show that we've all got to be watching that you loved?
Well, I just started watching Schitt's Creek, which I think has been pretty funny.
Okay. I don't want to take the podcast time on that, but I was told that I must watch. I watched the first episode of episode 1. I thought it was stupid. So sorry. I just offended a lot of people, but I didn't. It wasn't for me.
It's okay. It's okay.
So related to that, in the midst of the coronavirus, Josh Kurtz, what makes you laugh?
Well, my wife Carol makes me laugh a lot. My daughters Genevieve and Zoe make me laugh a lot. Genevieve was always funny. Zoe's a late bloomer in the funny, but now she's very funny. So You know, those for sure. Still love watching old comedy movies on TV, Turner Classic Movies, you know, so there's,
Nice.
there's a lot that makes me laugh still. And thank
Yeah.
God for it.
Yes, no kidding. We need it.
Yeah.
Fifth question, Josh, that I ask of everybody. What is your superpower? What is a hidden talent that you have that most people don't?
um, well, you know, I used to do a lot of singing and, you know, I guess I'm still pretty good at it, but I don't sing publicly, but there's that.
That's
Um,
totally cool. I didn't know that
yeah.
about
And
you.
I never thought of that as a superpower though. And I'm just, I can't imagine that I have any superpowers, you know, so it's a tough
I'm
one.
sticking with the singing thing.
All right,
You'll
yeah.
have to sing it at the virtual trivia night or something. I don't know.
Yeah, well, yeah, yeah, you know, I, or at least yeah, virtual karaoke or something like
There
that.
you go, something.
Yeah,
All right. Well, Josh, thank you so much for taking the time in the middle of the pandemic, in the middle of just all that you do, to join me to Kibitz for a little while. I look forward to seeing you either virtually or hopefully in person before too long. So please stay safe.
thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.